Let me begin with a bigger picture. The world is changing in front of our eyes. We see dramatic shifts in a geopolitical landscape. This week alone, we saw a long-standing strategic partner voting against UN resolution condemning Russia's aggression against Ukraine. We need to treat these developments as a call to action. The freedoms that we enjoy and the values that we cherish can no longer be taken for granted in this complex and more conflictual world. For the EU, they also depend on maintaining and further developing our economic base by adapting, innovating and competing in the world. In short, we need to build a more competitive Europe. Earlier today, our colleagues presented the Clean Industrial Deal and an action plan to bring down the energy prices as part of that effort. Cutting red tape is another important element to achieve more competitive Europe. Put simply, we cannot hope or expect to successfully compete in a perilous world with one hand behind our backs. The past 5 years has been a period of intensive regulatory activity, and our commitment of securing the green and digital transitions has not wavered. But at the same time, we must acknowledge that this has come at a cost, generating a large regulatory burden on people and businesses. As we take stock, we see that this accumulation of rules and their increased complexity are limiting our economic potential and our prosperity. Today, regulation is seen by more than 60% of EU companies as an obstacle to investment. 55% of SMEs are flagging regulatory obstacles and administrative burdens as their greatest challenge. And as you know, in Europe, small and medium-sized enterprises constitute around 99% of all businesses, and they are most at risk being suffocated by administrative burdens. At the same time, they are Europe's economic engine for whom we are speaking and acting with today's proposals. I also want to be very clear that we remain deeply committed to building a greener and fairer society and economy. Simplification is about making sure that EU rules help deliver rather than impede the achievement of our economic, social, environmental and security goals. It is about achieving those goals in a smarter and less burdensome way. Less bureaucracy means more innovation and investment that will secure our long-term prosperity. This means creating new and quality jobs for European workers. It provides citizens with an opportunity to stay, live and work in any region in Europe, from Portugal to Finland. Today's simplification proposals also help to ensure that responsible European companies can continue to invest and do business across the world. The alternative would be retreating and ceding the ground to competitors that do not necessarily share our values nor working methods. Taking all together, this is why we have committed to this ambitious and far-reaching simplification agenda. So now let me outline today's proposals. First, on sustainability reporting. Here, companies and stakeholders have repeatedly stressed the need to ensure certainty. So today we propose to stop a clock to delay the application of Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, or CSRD, for companies that have not started reporting yet. We also proposed to delay the transposition and application of Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, or CSDDD. This seeks to avoid the situation in which companies that are required under CSRD to report for the 2025 financial year, so-called second wave, or 2026, which would be third wave, that they are then subsequently relieved of this requirement, which would incur unnecessary and avoidable costs. We will propose to the co-legislators to subject this proposal to the fast-track adoption. Moving to sustainability reporting. Firstly, we are freeing around 80% of companies currently under the scope of the CSRD from very burdensome reporting requirements. Secondly, we are limiting the information that larger companies under the scope of CSRD can request from smaller companies not in scope, benefiting especially SMEs. Thirdly, we will review European sustainability reporting standards with a view of streamlining them substantially and making them easier for companies to use. Finally, we are lifting the mandate to adopt sectoral specific standards and the possibility of moving from a requirement from limited assurance to a requirement for reasonable assurance. We are therefore providing a clarity that there will be no future increase in auditing costs for companies in scope related to sector-specific standards and the possibility of moving from this requirement of limited to reasonable assurance. On due diligence, we are extending the scope of maximum harmonization, targeting due diligence as a general rule to direct business partners. At the same time, the proposal recognizes that there can be situations where companies have to look beyond their direct business partners when, for instance, they become aware of possible harmful activities at the level of indirect supplier. We are also extending the intervals in which companies need to regularly assess the adequacy and effectiveness of due diligence measures from 1 to 5 years. This will significantly reduce burdens not just for in-scope companies, but also for their business partners, which receive detailed information requests as part of their monitoring exercises. Regarding penalties, we are moving towards a more proportionate regime that shall be effective, proportionate, and dissuasive, and no longer linked with a percentage of global net turnover. Finally, we are moving away from EU-wide civil liability regime conditions while preserving the right to full compensation for victims under the civil liability regimes of member states. Then a few words on taxonomy. Today, the College proposed making taxonomy reporting more proportionate, proposing that only very large companies, meaning about 1,000 employees and 450 million euros in turnover, are required to report every year on their taxonomy alignment. So this amendment will free more than 80% of companies from compulsory taxonomy reporting. We are also presenting substantial simplification changes for the carbon border adjustment mechanism. We are doing this on a basis of reporting and data gathered during the CBAM transitional phase, where we learned that tens of thousands of small importers were subject to the CBAM, but their imports represented only about 1% of CO2 emissions. With a new threshold, we are eliminating CBAM obligations for approximately 182,000 or 90% of importers, most of which are SMEs. So this is expected to bring around 1.12 billion euros in savings, while still covering over 99% emissions in scope. The new threshold will also bring cost savings to public authorities in member states worth approximately 87.5 million euros through less processing of importers who are now exempt. This is a clear example of a win-win scenario that simplification can bring about, achieving our green objectives while strengthening our economy. Turning to today's second Omnibus, there we propose to optimize and simplify the functioning of several investment instruments, including InvestEU, the European Fund for Strategic Investments, and other legacy financial instruments. Again, this proposal is breaking a new ground. First, it entails substantial reduction of administrative burden for our implementing partners, financial intermediaries, and final recipients, notably the SMEs. These simplification measures are expected to generate a total of around 350 million in cost savings. Secondly, we also proposed measures to increase the real investment capacity under InvestEU to mobilize around 50 billion euros in additional public and private investments. This will help existing and emerging new priorities and direct additional investment capacity in support of our priority policies, such as the ones outlined in our Competitiveness Compass and Clean Industrial Deal. To conclude, today's first two Omnibus packages mark a strong start to delivering our simplification agenda. A conservative estimate puts the annual savings stemming from those two packages at 6.3 billion euros. Our next proposals will target small mid-caps, farmers, and changing paper reporting into digital one. We are determined to deliver. Our future prosperity and security depend on us taking action now. I will stop here. Thank you very much, and I pass over to Mary-Louise.